God bless you. God bless you. Blessed Father's Day to all the fathers. And today I thought I would do something different as I did on Mother's Day. We had Sister Dottie Peoples, and you want to stay tuned because we've got George Powell, we've got John P. Key, and all of them coming directly for the Enon house today, and they're ministering on behalf of the Enon Church today. So let me just say to you that I welcome you into this opportunity that I have to share and to bring you into this spectrum of what I'm doing. Most certainly in this climate, in this season, this is not the normal thing of a Sunday morning for Father's Day, because in a normal scheme of things, we would be in worship and I would be preaching and the choir would be singing and the fathers would be being saluted. But most certainly during this time, because of the cloud that's over the head of our community and because of the tension that's within the temperament and the tones of where we are now in our terrain as it relates to racial tension and all those things, I wanted to call some of the men that I knew are part of the ministry who are mighty men in God, mighty men. And if you can really get a glimpse of the sign behind us, it says, I am a man, but then you see the black part that's written in there, because most certainly we must ascertain that we are men first. I want to be respected as a man. Then as a man, number one, a man of Jesus Christ. Number one, as a man of Christ. And then as a pastor, as a preacher. But I don't want to have to pull the race card to make you respect who I am. I want you to respect me because I am a man born of manly gender, because my mother gave birth to a boy child. And but most certainly don't want to dismiss the fact that I am a black man, because I said on Wednesday night, I don't want you to become upset with me because God has kissed me with the morning sun a little more frequently than he did you. I'm beautiful and I'm black and I'm proud to be who I am, but at the same time, I want to be respected as a man. Treat me as the man I am. Give me equal pay and make sure that justice roll down for the street that I live on as the street that you live on. Amen. I want us to be treated as men, whether we live on Bankhead or in Buckhead. And that's what I desire, and that's what I believe we ought to really ascertain as men. So tonight, in a very special presentation, I have called some of the men of our ministry who I respect and who has gained the respect of this house, and men who can speak from the vantage point of their lives and what they have had to deal with as men.
Praise the Lord to Dr. Gregory and Sister Libby Pollard and to my Enon Church family. I'm just so honored that you all would allow me to come just for a few moments and share a few songs to encourage your heart. On this great Father's Day, we celebrate the fathers of the Enon Church and all over our nation. Amen. And we pray that this is a blessed, amen, rewarding day for all of our fathers. I want you to stay encouraged, Enon Church. Everybody has been in the pandemic for a while. We're so excited, not just to share with you, but even to share with our own church family, amen, in a few hours. But I appreciate you so much for allowing me this opportunity, and I pray that you're blessed. This next song is a song I wrote about maybe 30 years ago. And it's still relevant today because what we've learned in this quarantine is the power of worshiping God by ourselves. So I dedicate this to the Enon Church and to the worshipers. Song says, I do worship, I do worship, I do story for the peace you gave to me from the day you set me free. I do worship you. I do worship. I do worship. I do worship you. I do honor you. I do extol you. I do worship you. Lift your hands, everybody. For your goodness and your glory, joy inside your story, for the peace you gave to me, for the day you set me free. I do worship. I do worship. I do worship you. Hands up in the air. Lord, we worship. Lord, we worship. Lord, we worship you. For your goodness and your glory, yeah, for the joy inside, story for the peace you gave to me, Lord. The day you set me free, I do. I do. I do. Thank you, Jesus. You are the Lord, I do. I do. Lord, I do. I do. Every day I do worship you. I worship you. Praise the Lord.
And so today, very special, I have deacon in training, Eric Givens. Eric Givens, he is one who has served 20 years in the Navy, Eric is currently transitioning to an Algebra 1 teaching position at Creekside High School in Fairburn, Georgia. He's currently married and will forever be married to Cindy Givens. And they have 2 daughters, 1 son, and 3 grandchildren. Eric is a very special connection to the Enon house. And whenever I want some barbecue, I call Eric. Amen. Then I have Minister Greg Ushery. Minister Ushery is my friend, my brother. He's a part of the ministerial team here at Enon. He is a licensed funeral director and an embalmer for over 20 years. He served and the biological father of 2 children. But he's also, due to his servant heart and leadership, he has reared many children, even within the ranks of our ministry. Minister Ushery is a champion for leadership, and in that regard, he is the assistant coroner for Douglas County. Accountability, and most of all, making the difference in the lives of those he encounter. Then I have also with me tonight, I have Brother Arnold Harrison. Many of you know Arnold Harrison. He carried the pigskin on the field at the University of Georgia, and he also is a former pro football player, retired. He now serves as the manager of one of the Asbury Group's dealership establishment. He's a financial director, and he's also the controlling manager of one of the dealerships for Asbury Group. He's married. He has 2 children, of which I have had the distinction of christening, and they are part of my life, and I love Arnold very much. Also, to my right, I have deacon in training, Derek Boykin. Derek Boykin, he's a manager of procurement for 30 years in aerospace business. He has an AS degree in logistics management. He is married, been married for 10 years, and he is the father of 7. And then all the way to my far left is a deacon in training, Raymond Kelso. Raymond recently retired after 26 years of service in law enforcement with the United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons, and retired Master Sergeant of U.S. Army. He's married to the wonderful Shalene Kelso with 3 children and 2 grandchildren. These men have a plethora of knowledge for what we're going to talk about today. And I pray that, Enon, you will give us the respect and the time to stay tuned and listen to all that's going to go on. If you move from, let me tell you, if you move from your iPad, your cell phone, or your television, today you're going to miss something very, very, very special. So because today is Father's Day, again, I've called these men to share. And I want to put some questions in the atmosphere that they're going to answer. And we're going to give each one of them an opportunity to respond within just a little short period of time to respond, because I know there are several who sit on this panel who can be short, but then there are some who talk as much as I do. Amen. And they know who they are. So let's just do that. And the first question that I want to put out, gentlemen, if we're ready, we've had an opportunity for song and prayer before we came live to you. But here's the first thing. This is what I want to ask you. What comes to mind when you hear the word Father? The word Father. On this Father's Day, what comes to mind? Let me just start with you, Honor. What do you hear when you hear the word Father?
Being that I'm the son of a black father that has been very integral in my life, I would first think hero. I mean, in my situation, my father was a gentleman that I'm named after. My son is named after me, and I'm proud of that. And you know, my father's a hero because he's the person that gave me life, and he actually taught me how to live it.
So hero. And many times, you know, you hear that word hero, you will ask a child, what is or who is your hero? And for a boy child to be able to say his father is his hero is really phenomenal. What do you say about that, Eric? What kind of background would you kind of exude as a result of that? What would you say?
I have a little bit different situation. I met my father when I was 15. So I didn't really have a strong relationship with him afterwards. He was there, but I didn't really know him. And in my idea of a father is someone who is there for you, to be able to talk to be able to guide you, to be able to direct you, and to instill some core values in you that's going to help you in the long run. And someone who's there for you to be able to talk to when you have an issue, and a man who is doing what he's supposed to be doing as a man. That's my father. That's the definition of a father for me.
That's pretty good. Definition of a father is somebody who's there to lead and guide and direct. And most certainly, I've often said that women, even though they are there to nurture and care for our children, they really can't teach a boy how to become a man. It must be done by a man. So that's good. Greg, what do you have to say when I mention the word father? What comes to mind?
What comes to mind is pretty much a leader, someone that cares unconditionally, love, in spite of. So to me, as everybody stated here, all our situations are pretty much different. Just really not really having that role model as a father there, but also just learning from what I saw from a distance. So to me, just being a leader, being the head, and demonstrate that as being the head.
That's real good, being the head, being the head. And Christ compels us in his word to be the head of the house. And so that's real good. So Boykin, what do you think when you hear the word father? What do you think? What do you think?
When I hear the word father, I think of a protector. I looked at my dad as one that protected the family. I looked at him as one that led the family. And he raised us with a strong arm, so to speak. So I watched him for years. He wasn't a real compassionate man that would tell me he loved me. But I knew it from, watching his actions. I watched him go to work every day and come home and provide it for the family. And I can remember in his last 5 years that he lived, I worked with him for those 5 years. And then I began to know who he was, and I began to understand what he was trying to do with me, at that time. Because, growing up, when your father's getting on you, you really thought, he's just being hard. But he's really trying to teach you something. So when I think of a father, I think of a leader. And when I looked at my dad, I saw the leadership that I wanted. When I worked with him, he was a leader on his job. So I said, you know what, that's what I want. I want to be able to be a leader. I want to be able to provide for my family, and I want to be able to protect my family. And so when I hear the word father, that word leader and protector stand out with me.
Hey man, that's good. Leader and protector. Leader and protector. That's so significant, and that he has given you a work ethic to say that you want to be able to be a leader even on your job like your father. Kelso, when you hear the word father, what comes to mind? What comes to mind?
Well, Pastor, the first thing that comes to mind with me is it's an honorable responsibility. And as a father, it means you're the person responsible for any and everything under your realm. And it's an honor to have that for me. It's something I looked forward to all my life. And I love an open book test, Pastor. So all of the words behind you are exactly what a father, you can take either of those words, and that's what a father is: resilient, educated, powerful, kingly, influential. Thank you for giving me an open book test.
So that's pretty good. It's open book test. So, and we've listed all those things because a father can be so much and comprise. I've heard a story of a father being one who was uneducated, did not know mathematical, what we used to call back in the day arithmetic, but he sat in the room with his son to ensure that he got his homework. And one day he has asked his dad to read something for him, and grandmama told him, said, "Daddy really can't read." And she said, "But don't you ever let him know you know." He said, "Well, I didn't know Daddy couldn't read. All this time he's been teaching me." Because sometimes it ain't what you do, it's your presence that makes the difference. And so all of what we've heard is that the presence, because there was something portrayal, something to look at that made them see something different in the process of who their father is and was. So the next thing I want to say, when we start transitioning to becoming men like our fathers, what has been, man, I tell you, I could answer this question, but I'm not going to do that. What has been your challenge in becoming a father? As you become and develop as a father, what has been your challenge? I'm just going to just throw it out there, and the first person to pick their mic up and say something has it.
I think one of the biggest challenges I find in being a father of 2 children, 22 and 20 years old, is just sort of trying to make sure that I'm listening to them and make sure they have a voice, and not only just pushing my way of which way I think, just sort of want them to be individuals, want them to grow up and sort of, we always say we want to push them out the nest. So we want to push them out the nest, then we got to trust that what we have instilled in them, the foundation that we have placed, I feel like at that moment, we have to trust that we have done everything that we can do. We have given them all the godly values and principles. And so to me, I feel like some of the challenges now is just to make sure that I hear them in a different time than I came in, a different age. So I want just to make sure I hear them.
And that's very key, that sometimes we have to lead by listening. Lead by listening. That's powerful. My daughter taught me that lesson, that she said, "Daddy, at some point, you've got to trust me to do what you taught me to do." And that's so vitally important to have that trust between the parent and the child. Most certainly, we never know what our children will do when they're not in our presence, but we've got to trust God, number one, and trust that the movement of what we instilled in them will become a radiant light even in our absence. Anybody else? Come on.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on Greg there, because one of my biggest challenges has always been listening, and really listening, not just talking to them, but engaging them, hearing them out completely. I know as a parent, we all have we sit down and we start talking to them, but we don't listen to them, and you have to hear them completely out. Hear what it is they have to say, and then make your adjustment or whatever. But if you cut them off at some point, you're going to lose them. They're not going to want to engage you because they know you ain't hearing nothing they got to say.
Falling in line with what these gentlemen are saying, people really, when they think of listening, they think I'm listening with my ears and hearing, but nonverbal communication is real, actions are real, and we have the tendency, at least me being a young father, my children being 6 and 4, we covet them and we see them as things that we're creating or molding, and we're not literally seeing them with a true eye. And when I say that, I find myself now that they're responding to me with real words that we taught them and educate them. We're not understanding that they're responding to us with their thoughts. And we have to be able to, as real true fathers, which some people, like this gentleman said, you're not being hard on your child if you're training them or preparing them for life, which means that the people that they're dealing with are not coveting them, but looking at them true. And I think as a father, we can't function like a mother and look at our child and just say, oh my God, look at my baby, they're so good. If they are not good, it's our job to respond accordingly. And even if we have to move that mother out of the way from time to time and say, hey, don't help them up. Let them get up on their own. That is that's being a father, is making the hard decision and actually being ahead, letting them fail, letting them learn how to fail. Being there to help them, but not doing it for them is also an option.
One of my biggest struggles is keeping them motivated to continue to move forward, because I think a lot of times this generation, they're afraid to fail, right? So if they don't accomplish something, they'll get down. Whereas when we come up, if you didn't accomplish something, you keep moving forward. So my biggest challenge today is just, keeping my sons, moving forward. I don't have that problem with my daughters because they're focused, right? But the sons, you got to keep them moving forward. You always got to have that, communication. Where are you? What's your plan? What's your next step in life? And if you don't have those conversations with them, they'll just go about life and not really accomplishing anything. So that's one of my biggest challenges as being a father.
My biggest challenge is keeping up with what's going on in the world today. All the way around. I think that having to keep up with the amount and the type of information that kids receive and trying to stay on top of that and trying to understand how they view it. A lot of times I'm afraid that he's thinking one way when he's actually not. And he's thinking in a way that I want him to think in, and how much of this information that he's actually taking in and taking to heart, and how much of it is he's just reading it and then just letting it go and not seeing it as something that applies to him. So that is a real challenge, because today I feel that kids, they have too much information, too much access to information. That cell phone, that iPad, that laptop, whatever, and the social media, it's just having to keep current with all of these things, because I tell you, he'll come to me with stuff, and I'll be sitting there, and I won't have a clue about what he's talking about. And then I got to go do some research so that I can come back to him and clear some things up for him. So the amount of information that they receive these days that is my challenge.
Yeah, let me tell you how much information my baby girl has. So during this COVID-19 season, this pandemic, we decided that everybody was going to ride bicycles through the park. And my baby girl said, we got a problem. You can buy me a bike, but you never taught me to ride. Simply because the distractions have developed so much so that what we used to do, we don't do anymore. And so at 19, what I learned to do first, she's learning to do last. And so that's my challenge, has been, making sure that I stay relevant and current as well, Eric, with understanding that I've got to do my research to ensure that I can relate. All right.
I've been asked to sing songs all over the nation, but never have I been asked to sing this song by myself. So I'm going to go for it, Dr. Gregory, and I pray by faith that the saints sing along with me. It's an old song I wrote about 20 years ago. It goes like this. There's a lily in the valley, bright as the morning star. There is a lily in the valley, bright as the morning star. There is a lily in the valley that's bright as the morning star. Amen, amen, amen. Joy in the valley, bright as the morning star. Somebody found joy in the valley, bright as the morning star. Somebody found joy in the valley, bright as the morning star. Amen, amen, amen. Oh, peace in the valley, bright as the morning star. Somebody found peace in the valley, bright as the morning star. Somebody found peace in the valley, bright as the morning star. Amen, amen, amen. Now there's a lily in the valley, bright as the morning star. There is a lily in the valley, yeah, bright as the morning star. There is a lily in the valley, bright as the morning star. Amen, amen, amen. Somebody found joy in the valley. Somebody found peace in the valley. Somebody found deliverance in the valley. Oh my, there's a lily in the valley that's bright as the morning star. There is a lily in the valley, God is bright as the morning star. There is a lily in the valley that's bright as the morning star. Amen, amen, amen. God bless you.
What are some reflections you have of your father?
My father died when I was 7 years old. My father died when I was 7 years old, so I don't have many memories of him. The memories of the father figures in my family, my great uncle, my uncles, those were the men that helped form me into the man I am. And I remember them taking care of the family. My great uncle, my grandfather was dead. My great uncle would take my grandmother wherever she needed to go. He took care of my grandmother's children. He was the father of the whole family. He was grandfather to all of us and took us all out and taught us how to work and some other things. So that was my reflection of a father.
Probably more than I felt like I wanted. My father was ever present, and he taught me so many things, but I mean, one of the biggest things is if you've got a black mother, like that has to be something that's managed, right? And that's the first piece of management that I learned is that, son, he said, son, I don't care what your mother says, you got to manage your own household. And my mother knew to never tear him down in front of me because she knew at some point she would need that force to offset that 16, 17, 18-year-old young man that would no longer be listening to the voice of his mother. And so, you know, in the beginning, you know, my mom, you know, she taught me, son, you can do whatever you want to do. Anything you want to do in this life, you can do. And she would walk out of the room feeling good that she had built her son up. And I would be proud, like, yeah, I could do anything. And my dad would creep into that same room right behind my mom. And he'd say, hey, you can listen to your mama if you want to. Whatever you decide you want to do, you better find out what the cost is first. And I think that that is literally shaped me as a man in general, because I will assess everything that I do by what the cost is Not just believing that I can do anything, which makes you feel good, but understanding the reality that comes behind that, which is anything that you want in this life you can do if you're willing to work for it, or if you're willing to pay for it. So it's not coveting what you see, because that would align with what this gentleman said. You have to let a person, especially a young black male person, know who he is, yet he's ill-equipped to gain that information, because that information is now forming him and changing him, as opposed to him changing the world, which is what we're here to affect it in that way. So,
Well, if I were to answer that question, reflection of my father, one of the things my father taught me is to ensure that I took care of my wife and my family, and that if I could, then there shouldn't be any bills that she pays or that is paid in that household. Did your relationship with your father determine the kind of father you would be? Did your relationship with your father determine that the kind of father you would be? And really, I got a second segue into that, because it kind of is a dual force question, but let's just cover this A part first. Did your relationship with your father cause you to determine what kind of father you would be?
I'll answer that first. My relationship did, because I remember I said my dad, he raised us with a strong arm, so he didn't cuddle us. He didn't, tell you he loved you all the time. I played sports, coming up in high school, and he didn't come to the games, because by the time he got off work, he was done. So I saw that. I knew he loved me. I wanted him to be there, but I understood he was providing for the family. So when I came up and I had my kids, I decided, you know what, I was going to do that different. I was going to raise them with a strong arm, but I was going to show them love at the same time. So to me, that's, how me looking at my father, that's how I determined how I was going to be a father to my kids.
With me not having a father, I did have two great uncles who really guided, directed me, and I had a god grandfather who taught me a very good work ethic. He taught me how to make a dollar. No matter if it's just me standing there all by myself, I know how to go out and make some money doing something. Not to be afraid of work or anything like that. And those three men, they were the head of their household, and they provided, and they did what they needed to do as men. And when my mom would call my uncles to come over and have a talk with me, it didn't take them more than once to tell me anything. It didn't tell it. They never had to whip me. It's just the thought, the idea of a man walking in a room with a very large switch or a belt that convinced and changed my way of thinking. And I look at them and I want to be like them. I've always wanted to be like them. It's just a presence that when you see me and when I'm coming to talk to you, I'm all business. When I'm talking to you about something that's important for you, for your life, try to get you away from things that are not, conducive to you growing up and being a good man yourself.
I think, to be true, for my lack of relationship with my father taught me a valuable lesson myself. And the first thing I would say, lesson in forgiveness. And so, and then not only forgiveness, but also taught me to come to grips that everyone is not perfect. There's imperfect situations, but also the biggest lesson I have tried to instill from even just the lack of my father being there is just teaching my children to value what they have, but not only value what they have, but just the greatest lesson I believe is forgiveness.
That's real good. You know, here's the next part of that question. What were some of your experiences that you had in your childhood that you determined that your children would not have as a result, and they would not be exposed to? And let me start off with this in somewhat of a laughing form, because my mother and my father told me about their grandparents or their parents, because my mother died when she was 7, so she was raised by my great-grandmother. And she said that she promised the Lord, and so I was 41 years old before I ever had castor oil, because my mother said she promised the Lord that when she had children, she was not going to give them castor oil. So guess what? I am so grateful to my mother, even while she resides in heaven, that she had the experience that I didn't have to have. I just had to put that out there in the atmosphere, because I still thank God for her and my father not giving me castor oil. All right, but just any little thing like that that might be of a benefit. What were some of those things that you experienced in your childhood that you were determined that your children would not have to deal with?
One of the things I experienced from the absence of a father was that there was no advocate for me. There was no advocate when there came time to make the Little League All-Star team. I noticed all the kids that made the All-Star team were the kids that their fathers were always on the sidelines rooting for them. And I think I was as good ball player as any of them. And then we went on up to the next level, and it was still the same thing. And I look back on that, and I say, my son will always have my daughter will always have an advocate, someone to speak for them when they can't speak for themselves.
I think that one thing is a decision that was made early, and it was just from listening to my father and him talking about his, is that from a generational scenario, we kind of have all been limited in the options that we have, so we limit the options that we think that our next generation will have, and it's out of fear, I think. I think we are scared that we don't want our children to fail, and we don't want our children to go for things that they know are not options, so we steer their decision making. I think that my father's father drank, and that was something that he didn't like as much, but it didn't alter him. But my father always taught me to never be a follower, so when he taught me to never be a follower, that meant even him, if I didn't want to follow that practice. So at 37 years old, I've never taken up drinking. And that's because if it's a decision that I can make, then you taught me that I could do whatever I want to do as long as I'm willing to pay the cost. So I chose to never start drinking. And I think that I want to give him credit for that, because though you can learn a lot from a person being not present, you can learn from what not to do by looking at a person as well. So, a person being present, you can learn what you don't want to take.
That's really, really good, because some of you know my father was in the nightclub business, and he made sure that was not going to be the road that I took, and he always shared with me the disadvantage that he was under as a person who only went to the 3rd grade, and that he didn't have the privileges I had. And he also would always challenge me and say, son, stay in school until I'm dead and gone, because I'm going to pay for it as long as I'm alive. And I didn't listen to everything he said. I did ascertain becoming Dr. Pollard, but it was most certainly because of the fact that it was honorary 2 or 3 times. So I'm thankful for that, and thankful for my life, and Thankful for the many skills that I learned from him, even through communication. Because as I said, even though he didn't have but a third grade education, he was still not a dumb man. He learned himself how to articulate. He learned himself how to do business. And when he walked in the bank, he's the one that showed me, go into the bank, son, and have such a relationship that you can put your name on a piece of paper and they give you some papers to go with that. That he taught me what a signature loan was, taught me all those things. So even though he didn't have a third grade, but had only a third grade education, he was still yet an astute man because God had smiled on him. And I think because he wanted to ensure that so many others coming behind him had the advantage that he didn't have. Amen. So anybody else want to answer that question real quick?
Yes, Pastor. One particular thing is that I saw in my childhood, I saw a lot of strong women. And the women pretty much, and I thank God for the strong women, because if we didn't have the strong women, then a lot of us wouldn't even be here, to be honest with you. But I saw women, taking the high road, times and struggles, times of different things that was going on. And I saw the men that was in my life and around me sort of just step back and allow the women around to sort of just, I saw my grandmother and my mother them praying. I never saw a man step up and pray. I just never saw any of that. So what I was determined to do, I said, I really wanted to be, and I really want to be such a force or impact. And when you was doing my bio, you was talking a little bit about me. That's the reason that I go beyond my four walls at home, that I feel like I have to help so many other people that come to me and say there's a lack, or I even feel like there's a lack, and they pull on me and they pull on me and pull on me. And, and I don't mind that. I really love that, because I want to be that example. I want some of these young men that actually don't have a father in the home. I don't want them to feel some of the things that I felt growing up. And I saw women just run the house. I saw them doing every single thing to make sure that we was fine, that we was, productive. We got educated and all that. They instilled all that. So to me, I just wanted to say, when I said, if I could just make a difference along the way, if I can just keep them from feeling what I felt at the time. But like I said, I do want to go back and thank God for the mothers, the grandmothers, the aunts, and all of them that was around, that was strong black women that pushed us on through and pushed me through.
That's it. Most certainly, I can attest to that, because while my daddy was at the club, my mama was giving me the club to ensure that I would be who I am today. She pushed me, and she pushed and pushed. And my mother would tell me, and my father too, son, if you let me push you, then you won't have to pull so hard. And so I thank God for that. Borkin, I think you wanted to say something on that.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I didn't want my kids to experience is the way we were disciplined. The way we were disciplined, to me, when I got older and I saw that we were disciplined with switches. And with those switches came whips, right? So then I can remember watching, slave movies. And I watched how they whipped the slaves. And I said, wait a minute, that's a generational curse. That's a stronghold that's going to be broken with my kids. So when I discipline my kids, I discipline them with a belt on their butt. And I can remember saying, this is the way I'm going to do the same discipline, but I'm going to do it a different way. I'm not going to go get a switch off a tree and put whips on my kids. I'm going to discipline them in the area they're supposed to be disciplined in. So that's one thing I didn't want my kids to experience.
Yeah, I tell you, a switch will traumatize you. Let me just tell you that. Platted switches, switches you pick for yourself, that you got to go in the backyard and get, and if you get the wrong one, then she's going out there and she's coming back fire hot, because switches will traumatize you. Put that in the comment, that switches will traumatize you. Anybody been whipped with a switch can say switches will traumatize you. Matter of fact, tweet that. Put that on Facebook. Switches will traumatize you. I got to say that like that. All right. I got to have a little fun while we do this.
I've never done this before, but I figured it out. I got a little drums with it, so we're getting ready to take a chance. You guys are going to have to sing it along with me. I dedicate this one to all of the fathers. I'm living this life just to live again. And with the Lord I know that I shall reign. I shall not stray. With him I'll stay. He'll welcome his children home one day. I'm living this life just to live again. Yeah. Shall not stray. I'm gonna be with him one day. He'll welcome his children home one day. Yeah, like a thief in the night shall return for me. That's the day I know I'll be with him. You will see. Jesus will welcome me home. With him I'll stay. He'll welcome his children home one day. Yeah, like a thief in the night shall return for me. That's the day I know that God shall welcome me. Yeah, Jesus will welcome. Jesus will welcome. Jesus will welcome me. Hey, he'll welcome me. He'll welcome me. Yes, he will. He will. The Lord will welcome me. The Lord will. He'll welcome me. Oh, welcome. Welcome. Welcome my. Welcome my good and faithful servant. He'll welcome me. Yes, he will. The Lord will. The Lord will. Can I get a witness? The Lord will. The Lord will. He'll welcome me. Hey, Jesus will welcome. Jesus will welcome. Hey, Lord Jesus, he will welcome. He'll welcome me home. Hey, he'll welcome me. Somebody help me. The Lord will. He'll welcome me. One of these days won't be long. You look for me, I'll be going on home. Oh, he'll welcome. He'll welcome. He'll welcome. Yes, he'll welcome. He will. He'll welcome. God bless y'all. I love y'all so much.
I want to ask this question. What do you perceive is the role of the father in raising, here we go, we're coming, ladies and gentlemen, black men to be able to build strong, viable, functioning communities? What is it that we can instill in black boys in terms of fatherhood to ensure that our community, as it relates to us as a people, is strong in the future? What do we have to say on that? What can we do?
I feel that the main thing is education and just never settling for less, just pushing past. Don't get complacent. Don't get to a place that you say that I'm like this person or that person. Just understand that you have to do so much more than the next person standing beside you. I instilled in my son, I was telling him one time, I said, you go in the grocery store, some people in the grocery store have college degrees. So what are you going to do to make sure that, if you need a job at the grocery store, that you got to go beyond to make sure that you can ensure that you will have a good life and be able to provide for your family. So I feel like education is really the key, and just never get complacent. Don't even stop right there. Just knowing that you got to be the best that you can be at whatever you're doing. And one thing I can say that my grandmother used to tell me all the time, she said, if you're going to be a ditch digger, be the best ditch digger you can be. If you're going to be on the back of a trash truck, make sure you're the best trash man that you can be. And I quite often, as I got older, I was looking at, I said, if the trash man in the trash truck didn't come through the community, what will we have? We'll have a lot of trash lined up in front of the house. So, everybody have a very vital part in this thing, so just be the best that you can be.
I guess what I would say to our future is understand and get ready for success. And I think that generationally it wasn't something that was in our past. It's in our present. But our future should be brighter than our present. So I would say one of the harder things are being comfortable in rooms that we never been in. And understanding that you belong. Understand that was the promise that God was talking about for his people, and that you don't have to feel sorry or feel bad for the success that you have. You don't owe the people that didn't make the same decisions that you made anything. And I think that we're gifted as individuals. So I would say to those young men that we've always been better at everything. They're looking at you for new information. They're trying to figure out how you do and create things. Necessity is the mother of all invention, and we've always been the ones that had to create. So we're creative, we're smart, we're genuine, we're genuinely a loving people. You can embrace that. You don't have to shy away from it. And when you want to say no, look them in the eye and say it with conviction. No, that is not an option for me. Now, you can go and try on the next black man, but this black man knows his worth and his value, and I deserve to be successful.
And I've seen you do that in many occasions when promotions and things of that nature would come to the table, and me and you would come together and pray over it, and you'll call me back and say, hey, I got the chatter. I got the money for what I know I can do and what I know I can bring to the table. So that's always a good piece of success. One of the things I like to just put into the atmosphere before I come to you, Borkin, is that I think in order for our world to be a better place relative to us as a people is to ensure that there are three things happening in your life. That somebody is pushing you and that you're pushing somebody, that's number two. And then that you have somebody in your group who can pull you over and write your ticket when you're wrong. And that, I think those three components will really help us to become further a generational people who can change the world. Make sure you have somebody that you're pushing. Make sure you have somebody that's pushing you, and to make sure you have somebody that can pull you over and write your ticket when you're wrong. Because if I had somebody to pull me over many times in my group, that will challenge me to do more and be better. And when I'm really out of line, even in a racial undertone, to say, hey, brother, that doesn't look good on you. You represent the kingdom. And when you have somebody that can do that, it challenges you in your character. And when you wake up with more character in a new day, then you can conquer things that you wouldn't normally confront, because your character tells you, even though you're challenged, you're still a champion. Come on, boy.
Yeah, I would say take advantage of the opportunity that's been set before you. I mean, there's a lot of people that struggle and went through a lot to present an opportunity for you. So take advantage of that opportunity through education, just like you said. And the other thing, kind of like piggyback on what you said, Pastor, who's in your group? Is the whole group going nowhere? Then that's where you're going to be going. You know, they say iron sharpen iron. Get with someone that's going somewhere and model that. And pick your battles. Know which battles to fight. And before you open your mouth and speak, think first. Think about what you're going to say. Because most times you make a decision out of emotion, you're making the wrong decision. So that's what I would say to them.
Yeah, and you know, I often teach that emotions is your remote. That you give anybody your emotions, that means they can put you on what channel they want you to be on. And they can switch you, you know, and whether you decide, you know, to be a champion or not, it's all predicated into the point of who you give your remote to. So your remote is the seat of your emotions in which charge and change you. So that's very good, Borkin. That's very good. All right, Kelso?
Yes, Pastor. I would say one of the main things is, we've all talked about it up here tonight, is the example we set. And believe it or not, and I'm sure everybody here who's raised a son, your son's watching everything you do. And if you're doing wrong, then more than likely he's going to probably follow in your footsteps. And then one of the things I taught my son as a little boy, my sons as little boys, is the most important thing they could have is integrity. And I could ask Ray at 3 years old, said, what is integrity, son? He says, doing the right thing when nobody's looking, Dad. And when they understand integrity, that integrity is better than good credit. If you do what you say you're going to do, then people are going to trust in you. And that's the example I try to set for mine, and to have them go in the right direction.
Man, that's good. Eric, you wanted to say something on that?
Yeah, in addition to everything that these guys are saying, as far as being having a productive future, respect. You have to teach your son how to respect others' ideas. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but a person will in turn give you more respect if you go ahead and you give that person their due respect on their ideas and their thoughts or whatever. But respect is just one of those things that if you don't have it, you don't give it, you don't receive it, you're probably not going to get very far with anything that you're going to be doing in life. So respect has a huge role to play in going forward in the future with.
Yeah, I learned early on that popularity can go in a night, but respect lasts a lifetime. And so, and I used to have to say, as a young pastor, when people would challenge, because, it's different when you come to a church. I've been here 27 years, and to come and you 28, 29 years old, pastoring people that's twice your age, I would have to even say in times of that sort that like me, love me, or hate me, but one thing you're going to have to do is respect me. And I control that respect because I gave that respect. And when you give respect, you will be respected. Amen. I think we can unilaterally agree on that. But here's another question for you. There is no way to hide from the fact that racism exists. Aside from the current conversation that most are having, what are some other ways we can teach our young black boys about racism and prepare them to interact and succeed in this unjust environment? I think we kind of covered that and kind of talked about that with respect, with making sure you know your worth, making sure you can face the challenge. And so I think we kind of covered that. But the other question that's part B to that, how are we leading by example with our actions and not just words?
Social media and the news and whatever, what have you, is you can't allow the young folks, young men especially, to feed into all of it. You have to be there to decipher, to explain to them exactly what it is that's going on. And coming from a law enforcement perspective, I see things a little bit different than his mother may see it. His mother may see it, and she attaches that emotion to it. And, well, you're this or you're that, and you shouldn't let them do this or that. You have to understand. We talked about, you hear it all the time with the traffic stops. You don't have to do this or that when they stop you. Yeah, no, you don't. But if you give that respect, we all talked about, it should be reciprocated. But I have to inform my son, if it's not reciprocated, then you give that respect anyway, and you respect them all the way to the jailhouse, and I'll come get you later on, but never disrespect them.
Do you believe, and this is really somewhat of a joke, do you believe that we as black men are treated different when we're pulled over by the police or when we have some interaction with law enforcement? Do you believe that we are treated different?
I'll say that I believe we are because of stereotyping. I can remember getting out of basketball practice, and there's two of my friends were with me that played basketball. And I can remember we was riding around, and my hat blew out of the window as we was riding. So I said, stop the car, let me go get my hat. So they stopped the car, and I went to go get my hat, and the Caucasian older lady walked out of her house and held us gunpoint because she said we stole her dog. So she called the police. So the police came, and when he came, he was very aggressive to us. And he was saying, get out of the car, sat down on the curb. Where's this lady's dog? We said, sir, we did not steal the dog. We just got out of basketball practice, and we're just riding around, as teenagers. As he was talking to us and being aggressive with us, the dog came up the street. And we asked the lady, is that your dog? She said, yeah, that's our dog. And then he apologized. But our first impression of an officer was he was very aggressive to us. So my opinion, yes, we are treated different. And regardless of how you look, whether you got your pants sagging down or whether you're in a suit. We just witnessed a professor got accused of breaking in a home that was on a lunch break, and he had his badge on. Instead of you believing him by his word, you accuse him of doing something he didn't do. So, yes, I think we are treated different.
Arnold, go right ahead.
Now, me, as an adult, I'm in the luxury automotive business, and I played in the NFL, so my first car was a Lexus. I've continued to drive Range Rovers, Lexuses, Mercedes-Benzes. Like, you better have valid registration. I got pulled over on the street that I live on 3 times in the same week. Both times, the first 2 times, I got let go. The third time, the officer pulls me over and starts writing a ticket, and I'm like, well, sir, what? Can I ask you what I did? He said, well, you don't have valid insurance. I said, well, sir, I don't know if that's accurate. Let me pull that up for you, because we got smartphones, and I showed him my insurance was valid on the car. And he said, well, in the system it's incorrect. I said, well, sir, can you answer this to me? I've been pulled over 2 times this week, and the other 2 officers never said anything about my insurance. Do understand that tailgating is real. Do understand that in certain areas, they've trained them to say, this is suspicious activity. If you see a 20-year-old, 30-year-old black man in a car that's over $100,000, they don't understand how you got in it unless they Google you and then they say, oh yeah, he played in the NFL, so he good. So it's real. And you have to adjust accordingly because we are and have continued to have to be malleable.
That's so true. I've even had to deal with it myself in the area where I live when I first moved in that area. You know, I have to be honest. I had on a mink jacket driving a car, and the guy pulled me over, and he started talking more about the jacket and asking me where I was coming from and all. I said, sir, can you just please tell me, why did you pull me over? And then he said, oh, you're a smart one. Let me get your license. And when I opened my license, I have my chaplain's badge there. And he sees my badge and he said, go right ahead. I said, no, sir, I want to know, why did you stop me? And he said, well, you were weaving. I said, weaving how? He said, in the car. I said, sir, you stopped me at a red light. I was not moving when you pulled up behind me. So please tell me, why did you stop me? And he issued me and said, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. But I got his name, and I made a phone call when I got to my office the next morning in hopes that because I spoke up, that he won't do that again to someone else.
He was born in North Carolina. He was heaven sent. Whoa, grew up in Houston. He's been busy ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. Yes, it will. Oh, it's been too hard living, but he didn't have to die. George Floyd didn't hurt nobody. He was trying to comply. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. Yes, it will. He didn't want no trouble. They had him down on the ground. It was all over $20. Why did the laws even have to come around? It's been a long time coming. But I know a change is gonna come. Yes, it will. Listen, I can hear him call his mother, saying, Mother, he knew every time that he called his mother, mother would immediately get down on her knee. Oh, he said, I can't breathe, I can't last for long. Now he's resting in peace. Somehow we gotta carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I said a change gonna come. I know a change. Yes, it will. change gonna come. I know it will. I believe it will. I said a change. I said a change gonna come.
I mean, do you feel like they treat you in a different? It's absolutely true. I'm a 61-year-old man. I've been driving for 40-something years. Whenever I see those blue lights behind me, I get white knuckles. I get white knuckles. So I imagine what my son feels like, or the younger people feel like when, because I've been driving for 40 years, and I know I'm not doing anything dirty, but I get, because I don't know what the outcome of this interaction is going to be. So yeah, there is a difference, and our sons and our daughters need to know that there is a difference. They can't go out there thinking that that it's not.
I always would share with my son. I said, if you ever get pulled over, make sure you call your daddy. At the time you get pulled over, call me. And one reason was that, just to make sure that my son is my son. I have to first know that my son is my son. And so this situation could easily go a different way if something's said, or, so to me, I definitely think that we're treated differently. When I first moved to Atlanta, and right here we was talking about the Lexus, I was driving the Lexus, and I was driving to Douglasville, and I work in Douglasville, so I would go to Douglasville 5 and 6 times a week. So I got stopped. And the man said, well, why you keep, he said, I've been noticing each day you come to Douglasville about the same time. And I said, is that a problem? Me coming from another place, I really didn't realize what was happening, white officer. And I said, well, what is the problem? He said, well, we want to make sure that you coming from, we got Fulton County tags, and you driving across into Douglas County. And I was like, driving in Douglas County? I said, man, I work in Douglas County. I said, I manage Willie Watkins Funeral Home. And we were just making sure that you was not trafficking drugs from Fulton County. I was like, really? Now, I had on a shirt and tie. It bothered me to the utmost, because here I am going to a job and trying to make an honest living, but being stopped because I would take the same route about the same time every day. And since then, I've been stopped several other times. And so, but to not escalate the problem, I said, I'm going to help educate these people. So in Douglasville, I decided I'm going to get close to every single, the mayor, I can call the mayor, I can call the chief, I can call the sheriff. I even got stopped one time, and I told the officer, I said, well, sir, you wasting your time stopping me. He said, what you mean? I said, you waste your time. I said, because right now while you was behind me, I have the chief on the phone. I want you to know I have the chief on the phone, because I didn't do anything. So I want to make sure that the chief is aware of what's going on right now. He said, oh, you go on.
Being from Mississippi, I was pretty much bathed in racism. It was everywhere. It was every day, just about all day. Little small town where you didn't have a strong support system there for you to combat racism. And as far as the police are concerned, yes, they do treat us a lot different. And I have to go ahead and say that I've had to sit down and talk to my son about how to conduct himself once he's been pulled over. To be respectful, whether he's being disrespectful to you or not. Have your whatever, just immediately take out your license, your registration, and your proof of insurance, and if you can, turn on the dome light inside the car so the officer can see inside the car if it's at night, and just having to teach him and on how to conduct itself, so that he doesn't end up in one of these situations where that we see on television and in social media.
And at some point, when we convene back together, we're going to make sure that the law enforcement personnel who's connected to the ministry here, that we gather our young people as we've done in times past and share with them what to do and what not to do. But most certainly in this age of videos and cameras everywhere, the dynamics has swiftly changed. And I think that there are some storms that we encounter that God don't necessarily send, but he allows so that things will be better for future endeavors that we deal with. But here it is. Tell us how you feel about the recent public, let me see, how am I going to say this? Recent public murder, lynching of a black man, or the imprisonment of black men. How do you feel about what we just recently encountered? Because most certainly, I will go on the record of saying that there were so many other avenues by which could have been taken to assist in the situation, because even though we don't live anymore in Mayberry and Barney Fife is not on the patrol, but we must, even those who take on the shield, take on the responsibility, take the oath as an officer, must somehow get to know their community. Because community in that community means common unity. And there are times, my mother used to teach me, if you don't give any mercy or give any grace, you won't receive any. And so there comes a time that there must be a adherence to the point to say, what if this was my boy? What if this was my nephew? What if it was me in this position, in this situation? That the officers must be given the right, because they have been given the responsibility to make the adjustment according to what the circumstances and the situation dictates at that moment. And so what would you say, how you feel about that? You know, and I've got to say how I feel in terms of the respectful portion and the respectability, but I feel that we've been mistreated and that it really could have been handled a different way. And now, however, I do believe in divine providence, that our time is here stamped on earth, and that there are certain things that will happen in life to catapult, and God sometimes uses the infirmities of the weak to bear the strength of those who are stronger. So basically, I believe that certain things happen for reasons, and that God, once I turn my life over to him, that every line and logic of my life is in his full control. But how do we feel about that? How do we feel about what we're dealing with when we watch the television, when we watch this? And one of the things I want us to just think about when we start talking about us as a people, that we're this and we're that, and most certainly we have our disadvantages, we have our challenges, but at the same time, and when I look at the news, they're looking for a Caucasian sister who started the fire. How do y'all feel about what we're dealing with?
Man, frustrated, fear for our young men, for our young daughters, trying to think, what can I do to help the situation? And why are we in this situation at this time? It's 2020 and we're still struggling with racism. Why? Having a commander-in-chief that I feel supports racism. And when you have a commander-in-chief that doesn't speak out against it, you're in for a battle. And I do believe that God allowed things to happen in the earth.
You're talking about COVID 45?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, as well as COVID-19, we're dealing with a pandemic, and that's just racism. So, I'm mad, to be honest, but I want to be a part of the movement to create change and to, educate the youth so they will understand, that they have to participate in politics, is what I call it, that the brothers were talking about over there. That's politics, Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. Take the ticket, go home. Even though you're stopping me for no reason, if I'm not breaking the law, if I'm not riding dirty, then you shouldn't be stopping me. I'm just trying to get to a destination, and we should not be going through this at this time. But we are.
I think that the emotion that I feel is disappointment, but that disappointment is with myself, because I think that I've allowed myself to be desensitized to the concept that there's nothing new going on. Like, to me, it's like turning the TV on and watching television, because it's almost like seeing somebody else get killed or murdered for no reason is, oh, that happens all the time. It's not new. It's nothing new to anybody in this room to be mistreated. So my disappointment is not with that person. It's that you've caused me to not even feel any way about the way that they treat us. And now that the awareness is out there, I would like to say this. I mean, I have, been educated. I've been taught. I still study. And I was watching a video, it had to be maybe 2 years ago, of Malcolm X speaking in like 1963. And he said, if you sit down at a table with people and everybody has plates and everybody has forks, and they have food on their plate and you don't, then you can't call yourself a diner. So you can't say because we're sitting at the table with you that we've made progress, because if I'm sitting at the table and I'm not eating, then there's no progress being made. You can't pull the knife out halfway. It's still in my back. If you pull it all the way out, I'm still not okay, because only when that wound starts to heal would we be in a situation where that makes sense. So I would like to say this. You can't apologize to us and it just be okay. You have to allow us to receive said apology, and you have to change.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Just recently, I was on a dialogue with one of my mentors, Pastor Donald Parson, and someone texted in when someone said Black Lives Matter, and then someone else said all lives matter. And most certainly we came up with a cliche that says, if all lives matter, I just need you to act like it. I just need you to act like all lives matter. That means that when you get your check, I get mine, and it's the same amount. That when the dialogue is taking place about the movement in society, and I think one of the ways that we set ourselves up to get that done is that we make sure, not so much as the presidency, because we've got to understand the process of that in terms of the electoral college. We've got to be educated about voting, because in the local arena, those are the people who we elect, who end up being part of the electoral college. So we've got to make sure that we are voting. So even in our marching, even in our pursuit to try to make sure that we are visible, vibrant, and vocal, we got to make sure we are voting. Amen.
In that video, I saw my brother, I saw my cousins, I saw my sons, and I saw all the black men in the world with someone with their knee on their neck. And it hurt. It hurt me to my core to think, like my man said over there, that I had believed we had reached a point in life where that wasn't happening anymore. Then our recent incident here in Atlanta, I'm able to identify with that one a little bit more, because something very similar happened to me. But it turned out different. I asked the man, could I go home? He let me. That's all that young man wanted to do. All he wanted to do was go home. Now, the conversation that I want to have is these brothers up here, we all have shared experiences. I want to have the conversation with those who say all lives matter, that don't have to have that talk with their children. They don't understand that. When they don't have to tell their children to play politics. They don't have to worry when their children go out. See, they don't understand what we're dealing with, and we've dealt with this all our lives. Our parents dealt with it. That's the conversation that needs to be had, and those are the changes that need to be made.
I think seeing everything that's happened here lately, I was kind of like my gentleman here, kind of desensitized from it, from being from a little small town, Mississippi. It was kind of like I don't want to say a way of life, but it was pretty much, it was constant. But when seeing the videos, kind of, it was hard to look at, and to see this continue to happen over and over a very, very long time. I can remember on a Thanksgiving Day when my cousin, his dad was found lynched in a little town that I grew up in, and it's just things that were happening in the 70s and 80s, just my little lifetime up until today. It doesn't seem like that there's been a whole lot of change there. And so when I actually saw the video of a man dying for no reason whatsoever, and it really just it brought up a lot of heartache, a lot of anger, a lot of questions about what can we do to stop or to stop this, and just a lot of thinking is it has to do with educating our police officers. In America, you just have to have that high school diploma, and you go and you train for less than 6 months, and now you're in a squad car, you're riding around policing. You don't really have what the tools that you need to interact with the public, because there's just so many different attitudes, so many different mannerisms that police officers just aren't equipped, and they don't get that. And so training on the police part, it's just what we do here in the United States it needs to change. It has to change. Other countries, police officers go to school for 2-3 years before they're put out on the street, but specifically to be a police officer. But here, you get a few months in a classroom, and you get your own squad car, and you're out, you're policing. You don't really know how to do your job correctly.
One final thing I want to say is, and I want to ask you all, if you could, in a few words, say to the next generation or the younger generation, what would you say more specifically to young black boys that are coming behind you? What would you say? I know I would just say, make sure that you gain education, make sure that you set your agenda for where you're going in life, and stick and hold fast to that. And for me as a preacher, I've got to say, and I need to say, and I want to say, and it is so true, to make sure you have a prayer life, make sure you have a life that's connected to Christ and to ministry, so that you can come around some men like I have with me today, to be able to lead and guide you in the right way. And so what would you say to young men, black men more particularly, black boys?
I would say put yourself in a position to be able to make change. You hit the nail on the head, Pastor, when you say educate yourself. But also, Martin Luther King said, a man cannot save himself. So make sure you got a relationship with God, someone you can go to and you can talk to and that you can cry out to. And then make sure you have a mentor that you can talk to, that you can release your pain or whatever you're going through. But most of all, just put yourself in a position to make change.
I would say just know your self-worth. Never settle for just anything. Learn to love each other and learn to love yourself. And just know your self-worth.
I would say it's like the Lion King. You can hang out with the meerkats and the warthogs, but you're a king. Know that you're a king. You come from kings, and you should carry yourself as a king.
I would say your most valuable asset is your time, and make sure that you don't waste it, because you can't replace it. And I would also say that you would have to find the hardest way possible, because they've taught us not to. And when I say they, I mean the other race that's here dominant in this country. You would need to understand that you're going to have to figure out how to work together, because they've taught us not to trust one another. So you can understand that you will be able to find somebody with the resources and the skills that you need that has the same skin tone as you, and give them an opportunity to do a bad job first.
That's a Willie Lynch syndrome. The white against the light skin against the dark skin. You know, some in the house and some out in the yard. Y'all know what I'm saying. All right, come on.
I would say make sure that you're educated and have set clear goals in life. And understand that you don't have to go through something to learn from it. You can watch others go through things and learn from them. So pay attention to your surroundings and what's going on around you, so that you'll be able to make a better decision. Not all of the situations will be the same for you as it is for someone else. And so just know what you're capable of, what resources that you have that you can put to use to obtain your goal. So just be prepared in anything that you want to do, anything.
Be prepared, man. That's in itself is a powerful tool, because if you don't have a purpose in your preparation, then somebody use you for their purpose. Make sure that you have a goal, because a goal is nothing but a dream with a deadline, and that you challenge yourself. And I like how we started talking about, failures and faltering. Every failure is not a final. And I didn't know I could succeed until I failed. And so most certainly, if I fall, I'm going to get up and try again. Listen, I thank you all for this opportunity. Thank you for this time tonight. I pray that God would bless you for everything that you've exuded and given tonight. And I pray that this presentation has been a blessing to you, and that you will see it in its entirety. So let me thank Arnold Harrison. Let me thank Greg Ushery. Let me thank Eric Gibbons. Let me thank Derek Boykin. And let me thank Raymond and Kelso. I thank God for all of these men, and thank them for allowing me to be their shepherd and their pastor. I love all of them very much. And every man that you see up here is a tither, is a giver. And so I challenge all the men to follow these men as well. God bless. God bless you, my brothers and sisters. Let me challenge you to remain in prayer for all those who are sick and shut in and those who are waiting to be healed and delivered. Most certainly we are praying. Our condolences are extended to Sister Kimberly Payne and the passing of her father, Mr. Lewis Brown. Mr. Brown was a very special individual, and I thank God that the family chose me to give eulogistical remarks about him. And his funeral was on last Wednesday, and we are praying for that family. Most certainly, Kim was she is a retired major with the Atlanta Police Department, and she is also a peacekeeper in our ministry, and she's a part of the June birth month. Let me thank both of those entities for ensuring that when I arrived at the funeral on Wednesday, that they were touching her life. They were meeting the needs that she needed at that moment, just a word of comfort in that particular season that she was in. Prayer is most certainly requested for Sister Janice Cohen, Mother Janice Cohen, who was involved in an accident just of recent. We're praying for her. We're praying for Mother Rita Coker, who was hospitalized but now is in rehab, and she is doing much better, and we're thanking God for that. Most certainly, we celebrated on this past Friday, June 10th, holiday. And so in light of the recent events that are involving racial and social injustice, we continue to pray for our nation, our law enforcement, and most certainly we're praying for our government in this season. Blessed Father's Day. Blessed Father's Day to all of us fathers and fathers figures. We're praying for those, and special thanks is extended to my friend, Pastor John P. Key, for being our psalmist today, him along with George Powell. Most certainly we're thankful for their renderings today. I want to also admonish you to be adherently aware that this coming week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Vacation Bible School, spearheaded by Dr. Lewis Allen, our educational director in terms of our Christian education, along with our youth director, Dr. Patrice Austin, who always do a fantastic job, along with Minister Carrie Kearns. They are formulating Bible study and Vacation Bible School for our youth this week. So I will not be having a new virtual presentation of Bible study on this week, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Vacation Bible School. There will be age-appropriate links that will be sent to you through our Google system. And most certainly, ladies and gentlemen, please stay abreast. If you do not receive and have not received information with linkage to make sure you are adhering to meetings and things of that nature, please make sure you contact the church office to receive that information. Many, many, many of you have emailed, have called, have texted to inquire about when we will be reopening the church, when we will be reopening for in-person service again in worship. Most certainly, I miss my Enon family. I miss you. I miss you. Let me say that again. I miss you, and I'm looking forward to the time when we can come together and worship God in the beauty of holiness. I'm looking forward to it. So we're working on a reopening plan that will be executed in graduated phases. It will be a soft opening and build from there as we move forward. We will be in line to meet the CDC guidelines. And when I am confident that we can reopen safely with all of our congregants in this place, I will communicate that to you through a town hall presentation, as we have done in the past, and also in a letter form that will reach you at your mailbox. Make sure that you have that information. Until then, we will continue with our virtual worship services on Sunday as well on Wednesday. Please, ma'am, please, sir, please stay connected to the ministry. If you are in need of prayer, if you want to know about counseling, we're still counseling. We're still trying to meet the needs of the congregation as we move forward, even in this COVID pandemic. Most certainly, ladies and gentlemen, if you are in need of prayer, if you're in need of counseling, if you're in need of assistance financially, if you're in need of food or clothing, whatever you're in need of, please, ma'am, please, sir, you can text the number 54244. 54244. You put that in the column where normally you would put a person's name, then the keywords that you see on the screen. You will see keywords such as join Enon. Let me welcome those who have already joined the ministry virtually. Let me say I'm proud to be your virtual and visible pastor. I'm excited. If you need to know about salvation, you can text Enon Salvation, Enon Prayer. You can text Enon Support. You can text Join Enon 54244. You can also use that number to pay your tithe and offering. Let me just remind you that the tithe is the debt you owe. Your offering is the seed you sow. And let me thank you for all those of you who have continually support the ministry. Even though we've been absent from the building, you've been ensuring that the building is being taken care of. So let me thank you, thank you, thank you. You can give through the website. You can go on to the enonchurch.org and give through our website. You can pay with credit card there, or you can mail it 3550 Enon Road in Atlanta, Georgia, 30349. Let me thank you yet again for all you do for allowing me to stand on your shoulders. I want to pray with you real quick. And most certainly during this season, most certainly that is what's going to see us through. Father, we thank you for the Enon Church and the people of Enon Church. God, we pray now that everything that has exuded and come forth today would be a blessing in days to come. As we look back over this virtually, God, we thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for social media. I thank you for the gift that you've given us through the internet, because most certainly you've proved to be who you are, even in a time like this. God, be with your people. Bless those who are sick. Cover them. Be with them like only you can. Continue to cause this place to be a soul-saving station. Cause us to be able to be more than we are right now, because you are with us. And when you're with us, you become a majority. We become more than we are alone. So God, we honor you and we give you thanks. Cover your people. Bless us until we have an opportunity to meet again. In the name of Jesus, God, we thank you for health and wealth. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you, and I'll see you again real soon in person. I'm praying for that day to come real soon. When all of God's children get together, we are going to have a time. When all of God's children get together, we're going to have a time. I love you very much. Amen, and God bless.